Hi everyone, it's Lori Langford. Welcome to my channel. In this video, I want to show you my technique for creating impressionistic artistic images using Photoshop. And in this series of images, I have been editing these images creatively using some various techniques in Photoshop that I've been personalizing and customizing, and I thought I would share these with you in a series. So let's get started. In this first video, I want to talk to you about the images, how I captured them, and then I'm going to walk you through the first edit style. So I got inspiration from another photographer that I followed that had taken some flowers and created these layered, dreamy looking images. And I wanted to try to figure out a way to do that myself using Photoshop. So there's several filters that I've used, but the first step is, of course, to capture the flowers. Now, you could use this technique with shooting wildflowers in a field or a field of sunflowers or, a meadow, any type of flowers. I shot these on a light tracing pad. And I do have an article that I'll link below that explains how to capture images on a light tracing pad. A light tracing pad is a white surface and it has basically like backlighting. Now you could use a very similar effect and just shoot on a piece of white paper or white foam board or a white tablecloth, any kind of white surface. What that's going to do is it's going to give you a very clean, simple background that you can then use to really edit and customize your images. I find that it's easier to start with that white background, and then you can always go and add texture. You can change the color of the background. You can do a lot of fun things with it, but having that white background's a great place to start. So that's how I shot these images. I took bits of flowers from my garden and wildflowers that I found on the side of the road, and I just cut and gathered some things and began to place them on a flat surface, again using the white light tracing pad for my background. All right, so in this first video, we're going to jump right over to Photoshop. And this is the original image. So I have not edited this image at all. I didn't even clean it up. And I'm going to just start with it that way, and then we'll make adjustments as we go. So the first thing I'm going to do is duplicate my background layer. And that command is Command J. You can also right click and duplicate your layer. So we want to start with another layer. And what we're going to do now is we're going to go to Filter and we're going to go to Stylize. Now the first technique I'm going to show you is using Emboss. So we want to go to Emboss. And from here you can decide how much or how little you want. I do encourage you, if you're going to convert this to white and really want to have that shadow effect in your image, to go pretty high. So I think I usually keep it about 180 so that it really gives me that nice definition that I'm looking for. So I'm going to click OK. Now in my situation, I don't want this to be gray, and that's what embossing does. So what we're going to do is we are going to do a selective color adjustment layer. So we're going to come down here to the adjustment layers, select selective color. Now what I want to do is I want to clip that so that it only impacts this gray layer. So I'm going to hold down the Option key, and I'm going to right click, and I am going to create clipping mask. And what it's going to do is you'll see this arrow. This means that whatever we do with selective color is going to just impact this gray layer. So now I'm going to come over to selective color. I'm going to go to the neutral area, and I'm going to see what it does. I could darken, which is really neat. I think this could be an image all on its own. But I'm going to take it over to brighten it. Now remember, I'm not really interested in the colors in this image. I just want to make sure that it's not gray. So I think that's going to do the trick. All right, so now I'm going to go back to that original layer, and what I want to do is change the opacity so that we can see the image underneath. All right, I'm going to keep the blend mode for now at normal. And next what I'm going to do is I'm staying on this embossed layer. I'm going to do Command T, and that means I'm going to transform. And the first thing I'm going to do is just start moving. So what I want to do is I'm almost creating a shadow effect. I'm going to enlarge that background shadow effect, and I'm just going to bring it where I want it outside the flowers. Now I can also turn it a little bit if I want to kind of make it a little more whimsical. I can shift it in different directions. I can enlarge it a little bit more. I think I just want just a subtle shadow effect. So I'm going to click OK. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to play with the blend modes. So I'm going to see sometimes different blend modes like multiply is going to bring out more of the original colors in your image. Darken works similar. Soft light, you're not going to notice your embossed area. Hard light. Now, difference and exclusion can sometimes work, and subtract can be really fun. So depending on your image, sometimes subtract may work. There's also luminosity, which gives a really soft look to the image. It's very close to normal. So you've got some options there. I think for this image, I'm actually going to use the darken. And the reason is I'm not going to have to mask as much. So if I do normal, I'm not going to see as much of the flowers. So what I would have to do is grab my mask, and I'd have to come over with my brush, and I would have to brush in all that detail. But instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch, and I'm going to try that darken, which really brings out all the original details of my flowers. So that's a really nice trick. Now I can still go and make sure and bring out some more if I wanted. I've got my opacity pretty high, and I could continue to work with that mask if I wanted. Now I do see a line down here at the bottom where we transformed, so I am going to come in and just kind of blend this a little bit just to get it a little softer, and I may end up cropping, or I can go back to my embossed image layer, hit transform, and I could just scale these down till they reach the bottom of the page, and that fixed that. All right, the next thing I can do is while I have the mask, if there's an area that I don't like, that I feel like is distracting, I can keep my brush paint on white, which is actually going to hide or keep it on black rather, so it reveals what's underneath. So I can get rid of some of the embossing if I think it's a little bit distracting. And I do think this area kind of in the front, right there, I'm just gonna kind of get rid of that one. And maybe just fade the rest a little bit. And then I'm just gonna look around my image and see if there's anywhere else that I think is distracting. And I really, to be honest, I think the rest of it looks really nice. So I think it's fun. It's a different technique. What I encourage you to do is try different blend modes, try different opacity layers. And once you're satisfied, what I like to do is a stamped layer. So that's Command, Option, Shift, and the letter E. Command, Shift, Option, the letter E. And now what I'm going to do, that gives me a clean layer. I'm going to go back to Filter, Stylize, and I'm going to apply some oil paint. Now, if you use Topaz Studio 2, you could also take the image into there to add a little bit of softness or some oil paint to it. For oil paint, I like to keep everything over here on the far right and then the lighting here on the far left. Now you can adjust that to customize your image the way you like it. I'm going to click OK. We can see how this just really added that softness, that impressionistic look. And I'm just going to reduce the opacity a little bit. I don't want it overdone, so just a little bit for me goes a long way. All right, so I think I like this image better than the one I did the first time. So kind of it sometimes works out that way when you start fresh. So I hope this helped you understand how to use the emboss tool and how to use it with a group of flower images. Now I shot these on white, but you could also do the same thing on black. And remember that you can always go to that embossed layer and you could change the selective color and modify it based on your image and your image's background. So play around with these easy steps, and in the next video I'm going to show you another technique using a different filter here in Photoshop.